Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Mobby here, and today I want to review Orcs Must Die Deathtrap. This is a game that releases on January 28th, 2025. It's going to be on Steam PC, but it is also on Game Pass. And today I want to pretty much answer if it's worth playing, if it's worth buying. So this is a new game that can still be played solo, but now this is the 5th game in the franchise. See, this series is known for third-person tower defense. You can now play up to 4 players for the very first time, and it is also cross-play. So it has player scaling, so you can play in any number. I personally have been playing solo because I was playing a week early and there was no one to really play online, so you had to pretty much go on your own. But also a really cool thing is you can also play 100% offline too. You don't have to be connected to the internet. But basically you're probably going to be playing just one player in that regard. There's no split screen, but as I mentioned, you can still play online. So in this game, I guess a huge overall difference is there's a much deeper progression system for the heroes and the traps themselves. This game is going to be running in Unreal Engine 5, and I think you really don't need any previous knowledge of the game's gameplay or the story. It's completely okay to just jump into the sequel, as in, there's probably like 1 or 2 characters that return, but you really don't need to know that. Okay, so what are some cool changes in here? What's the gameplay like? Well, basically, you just start with different war mages. You get to choose from a bunch of different characters, and they wield different weapons like crossbows, wands, wrench staves, hammers, daggers. So you get a good mix of range characters and melee characters. And each of those characters themselves, and they have original abilities such as traps. They can have buffs. They have giant slams, teleport traps, snares, healing traps. They can summon minions. They can use levitating traps to make it so it's easier to get around, and everything can be used by yourself and the other war mages that you play with. Besides that, there's also a central hub in this game that's called the Order Fortress. Now, you're going to be spawning here and returning here after every mission. This is a good place to upgrade your heroes and traps, and you could practice in the arena. There's dummies where you can test your DPS. Once you get new traps, you can press a button and activate so random dummy orcs can run through, and you can test out your traps and you can see how they all work. There's a skill tree as well. You could talk to an NPC that will, that you progress with points that you obtain in missions. Now, this particular tree is a universal one, but there's also a specific war mage one. So you can master one hero at a time instead of instead of just keep mixing and matching. You can do that, but then in that case, you just want to go the pure universal tree. Also, instead of unlocking traps in past games by just completing missions, once you beat a mission, you actually get these universal trap points that you can use to go through the trap store and just unlock any single one that you want in order to just try them out. There's also a thread shop in this game. This is a new addition to the game. This is like a roguelike aspect. So you're going to be unlocking different boons that are used between waves during the missions, which I'll talk about in a bit. So what are some big changes if you are coming from the older Orcs Must Die games? Well, you can already see here, but there's probably very, very limited barricades. And overall, I think this is a good thing. So in the old game, your barricades just cost money, which is the same currency that you use to put down traps. But in this game, they only give you like 10 to 12 barricades to use at any time. It doesn't use up any money to use, as mentioned, and it encourages less barricade spam, which equals less death trap rooms, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, so these missions are split into acts, and each mission has a bunch of waves. So basically, it's kind of like a roguelite where you have to go through 4 acts in a mission, or like 3 to 4 to 5 acts, and each act is a map with waves. It's a little tough to explain, but that's pretty much it. And in between waves, inside of the act inside of the mission, you get different sorts of threads, which you unlock doing random stuff in the game, like just like challenges, which makes it so you can just find them in the game. So it kind of feels like a roguelite in that sense, for like I don't even know, like a Binding of Isaac or something, where you unlock something and then in the future you can see it pop up in a random run, right? You can also purchase them in the thread shops. Okay, but they are completely random for the ones you choose, the different maps you go to, but you will learn the maps fast, and you'll learn some key strategies for them, because a lot of the maps they really encourage you to stagger and attack over time instead of putting everyone into one kill box, so to speak. The maps are decent in size, very colorful, a lot to look at. There's actually some secrets in some of them. I won't spoil what they are, but if you run around and look for something, you might find something to unlock, right? All right, so yeah, as I mentioned, less death boxes and more running around. It's much better to just set up traps all around the room and run around and fight, which, you know, I think it's a good thing. Okay, so I think something that might be a little annoying is the hub itself. It's cool that there's a cool central hub you can walk around, right? But it's annoying to navigate and walk around after every mission. It reminds me of the Monster Hunter World launch, where all of the NPCs and all of the shops were spread too far away. After every single mission, you had to navigate through the whole thing to, you know, go to this NPC, go to that NPC. You have to do it every single time in order to maximize your return from your missions. Now, speaking of Monster Hunter still, in the DLC, you know, Iceborne, they made it a little bit better where stuff were a little more clumped together, but overall, you know, people were using stuff like mods, including myself, not to cheat, but just to centralize the NPCs, so it's less running around and you just spend more time doing actual stuff. So it won't be that annoying in this game, because let's be honest, you're probably in the missions a lot more longer than you are in the hubs, but it's something to think about there. It's just like, I gotta keep running around every single time here. So in this game, I guess let's talk about some other good and bad stuff. So there's no story, at least not really. You're just defending against evil orcs. Some people might like the straightforwardness of this, where it's just mission after mission after mission. You do have an early cutscene / movie, but the rest of it is gonna be just a straight gameplay, which it's good and bad, you know. It is, because the game is pretty charming with the characters. They have lines that interact with each other, and the world is, like, as I mentioned, colorful. So it'd be really nice to have more mission stuff. And if every single sort of story thing is super spread out between a lot of missions. So it's like 90% gameplay for the most part. Okay, let's see. The roguelike aspect. So in this game, it's, you know, quite different from the other ones, where you actually build your character's abilities and your traps throughout the waves in a mission. And I think this is I really love this aspect. It changes how each map is played. You can play the same map over and over again, and you're gonna have different strategies for each, because in between every single wave, you're gonna get a boon. As I mentioned, some stuff is, oh, your crossbow is gonna be upgraded when you stand still, so you're gonna act like a little mini turret, a specific, talking about a specific character. Or it makes it so, hey, these launching traps now can launch larger enemies, so you might want to skew more towards that. Or my favorite ones are the one that you get extra barricade limits, which makes it so you can really move them around. So that's some of the good stuff there. So it keeps things fresh, and it also increases the difficulty over time, because you're just always learning. So speaking of learning, every time you do pick a map, you do have to choose a different, or every time you choose an act in a mission, right, you get a new difficulty added on as well. So even, once again, if you play the map hundreds of times, it depends on the combination of the abilities that you choose and also the challenges that you have to choose between. Some of these challenges are new enemies that spawn, like more skeleton enemies, or flying enemies that freeze you if they hit you. Maybe there's less pathways, so even though you always have this favorite choke point, it's covered in corrupt, and you have to figure out a way to get around it. So there you go. So I think another thing is, it's gonna be pretty tough for new players. This is one of those games where it's easy to learn, easy to pick up, hard to learn, master sort of thing. There are tutorials, and I did read through all of them, but it is sifting through a lot of menus and reading. And there's some things you just aren't going to know, especially if you're not a veteran of this sort of game. Some things aren't completely 100% explained, like the different elements, like what does, obviously burn does, dots over time, but what does freeze do? Obviously it freezes them, but do they do more damage? What does lightning do? Does it do the same thing as freeze? Poison, is it just fire but different? That sort of thing. So, and also the range of certain traps aren't clear. It's a lot of trial and error to know the range. There's a number like, okay, this thing has 50 range, but what does it exactly mean in the game? That sort of thing. The map is cool in the game. There is, it's on the top right. It shows you what wave you're on, shows you the missions, it shows you the different sorts of enemies on the screen, where they're walking, which is the most important thing. But during the waves themselves, you see the enemies pop up and they're red, like dots, which is easy. But then you start to see some different sorts of things like triangles, like teal triangles, purple dots, and at first you don't know how they are. And the game doesn't tell you, but you will learn, like, okay, purple's hunters, they go after the enemies, triangles are flyers, and then you have other things around the map, like quick time things you have to go to, otherwise they're going to spawn enemies, that sort of thing. But basically, it's pretty chaotic, the map, if you're definitely not used to it, because you're going to get overwhelmed by so many things popping up. And I think to sum up this game, Orcs Must Die Deathtrap, it's fun, it's challenging, time passes by quickly, you always just want to do one more mission, one more wave, you're always unlocking new things, you're upgrading traps, you're learning new strategies. This is a really good sequel, and I've played all of the other Orcs Must Die. I love those games, and the fact that this one is now multiplayer, it's also on Game Pass, cross-platform, you have no excuse if you are a fan of the other ones not to play this. I think some people will be nitpicky, like, oh, it's not too easy, I can't death trap, I can't death box anymore. Honestly, it makes it so you're forced to be more creative. The difficulty of the other games, from what I remember, is the death boxes were insane. Thousands of enemies just going through one room, and then you're just like blasting. While there is a little bit of that in here, the fact that you have to deal with just more of the map in general, I think makes for an overall better experience. Not, having limited barricades makes it more so you have to rely on different traps on the different maps. You understand, okay, I want more ceiling traps in this one. On this map, it's all about the wall traps, and in this one, okay, maybe I can have a tiny kill box here. So it's a fun game. I recommend you play with friends, because I'm playing single player. It's tough, but I think once we learn more strategies and we upgrade our characters, it's going to be doable. But it is tough. We're getting through it, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested in the gameplay, I'm uploading my full Let's Play on my Let's Play channel, Mobby vs. Games 2, link in the description. And I will be also live streaming it on Twitch, link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.